I'm from the Older Women's Co-Housing Group, OWCH. Actually, I realised my interest in co-housing actually began, though I didn't know it at the time, when I was doing field work among the old here along the quays of Dublin half a century ago. The OWCH Group started from my research into senior co-housing in the Netherlands. We're the only senior co-housing community in the UK, but there are 12 in process. In the Netherlands, there are some 300. Now, in terms of the benefits of co-housing, that's what I've been asked to sort of give you a sense of today. This lot looks as if they built it themselves. They didn't, they're kidding. In terms of, well, ageing, the ageing statistics and demographic trends for our two countries are broadly similar relatively. They're characterized by societies getting older, the prevalence of the very old as people live longer, patterns of single living, increasing patterns, I might say, of childlessness among the old, and therefore the possibility in old age of extreme loneliness and isolation. And that has been identified in the UK. As was said yesterday, we actually have a minister for it, a minister for loneliness. Fat lot of good that will do. But in terms of the growing demand on health and social care services, there is a need in our policy arena to focus on solutions like, options like co-housing for older people. Loneliness and isolation increase your risk of dementia by twice. Now, I won't go into all the other issues around that. They're very similar between our two countries. One of the things that I feel that a senior co-housing is a very good antidote against is what is historically endemic in our British tradition of institutional ageism. Now, I'm sure it's very different here, but an ageism that infantilizes older people and turns them into passive recipients. I hate that. I hate the word the elderly that's on your program, by the way. So, senior co-housing is about retaining agency and staying in charge of your life. And we have a film that's on show here today, which I very much urge you to go and see, called A Different Way of Living, where older people take their lives into their own hands and stay active, happy, and hopefully healthy, because they have people around them to share activities with, and crucially, and it's something I found out in my research in the Netherlands, very important to older people, the assurance that somebody would notice if you did not appear one morning. Big fear among older people living on their own is that they could lie for days without anyone noticing that they hadn't come out of their front doors. So, co-housing, senior co-housing is not for everyone. If you're happy in your old age, don't move. But do plan for eventualities. Do plan for when you may be alone. Do plan for when you can't get up the stairs. Do plan for when you can't get into the bathtub. Make choices while you still can. So, the OWCH Group, they are physically 25 flats, 26 women, with shared amenities like a common room, a laundry, a garden, etc. We help design new ground. And following on from Inka's talk, the boost that we got was enormous from participating with the architects in the design of the scheme. Many of the very positive aspects of the scheme, like airiness and the circulation spaces where you meet people easily, were the product of our participation. But the primary benefit from all that, from that participation of workshops with the architects, was that we began to feel, gosh, this that we have worked for so long is ours. A sense of ownership, a sense of commitment. So the standards of the building that we live in are wonderful. I mean, it's a lovely building. It's won ATEC architectural awards. It's very age-friendly. It's got lifetime home standards all the way through. You don't have to move. you can live there until the end of your life. It's also, actually we realised only in retrospect, very safe for anyone who might develop dementia because there's only one way in and one way out. So the group itself is actually intergenerational. The age range is about 37 years. The younger women are younger than the daughters of the older women. The age range is 53 to 90, and a number of them are still working, including the 90-year-old. They're a mix of buyers and renters, 17 leaseholders, 8 social renters. There's a mix of physical and mental health conditions in the group, a range of class backgrounds and educational backgrounds. All, though, are committed to a group of core values, which brings them together. And they're a very tight-knit group. And basically, they have to be tight-knit because they really depend on each other. So, 26 women, 2 of them are a couple, all the rest are singles, they need each other. When we get so many visits from policymakers and architects and whatnot, we say, great, the physical architecture is really attractive. What distinguishes us is the social architecture. What distinguishes us from the almshouse next door is that our community runs the whole place themselves. They have choices. Next door, everything's laid down by a foundation, the warden, no visitors, no pets, no whatever. A very different lifestyle. Here, the values that bring our group together are collaboration, shared responsibility, and mutual support. You don't have to love each other. You don't even have to like each other. You do have to respect each other. Now, when we moved in, and I don't live there, in fact, but when they moved in 2016, this was the end of a long process of community development, which was part of my role with them. We prepared for living together. And one of the arguments that I have in the community-led housing sphere is around community building. I don't think a sense of community automatically and naturally just happens. And it certainly doesn't happen by putting a whole load of people, the only unifying factor among them being frailty and old age, under one roof. Why would they become a community? That's the reason why that so many provisions for older people don't work, and where they are probably lonelier than they would have been in their previous housing situations. So our community development process, we went through all kinds of things. So we brought in training on decision making, we framed our own conflict resolution procedures, we framed our own policies on pets, visitors, etc. And we played games and did exercises that brought the group together and helped everyone get to know people to a certain extent. So when they moved in at the end of 2016, they all knew each other. Now, daily life in the OWCH group, in New Ground, is much the same as it would have been when they were living in their own private homes before. They've all got their own space, their own little flats, 1 bedroom or a 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom flat. The difference is they all know their neighbours. And then more than that, they know they can rely on their neighbours. They run the whole place together as a group. There is a community meeting once a month where all the major decisions are taken through a process of consensus building by the group itself. They have an elected management committee. We have a series of work teams, one for the building, one for the garden. I'm part of the communications and PR team. There's a green czarina trying to persuade some of the older ones to live more greenly in a way that they have never been used to, and that's working very well. So there's a treasurer, housekeeping team. Any day of the week you will find them at meetings. If you don't like meetings, don't go into CoHousing. The various work groups are busy. The gardens are lovely, aren't they? They've created those themselves. You'll find the common room, that facility that's so unused in so many collective older people's provisions, is constantly used for things like yoga, for a film night that they organise themselves, for a communal meal once a week, for meetings. For somebody sends an email around and said, I'm bringing board games down to the common room this afternoon. Anyone want to join me? The group is outward centred. The very first thing they did when they moved in was invite the whole street in for coffee and to apologise for the 2 years of trouble and pressure on their lives in a one-way street caused by the construction process. They're very outward centred, and that's one of their key values. Many of them are volunteering locally, particularly in the cancer support centre along the street. They might any one day be running a seed swap afternoon for the neighbourhood. They might be entertaining family, friends, visitors. The role of the group as a learning space has grown, and we're trying to contain it. That's one of the reasons for the film, to siphon off some of the huge interest there has been in the group. Our website too, we make as informative as we can. And so my first question to intrusive journalists is ask, have you read our website? And then I test them on it. So, the mutual support ethos that runs right through the group is really important. Everyone can rely on it. There have been quite serious illnesses in the group since they moved in. And anyone who is, one of the things they say quite often is, we don't look after you. What we do is look out for you. We had a workshop well before they moved in on what actually constitutes mutual support. Where are the limits to it? And it's something that I learned from my research in the Netherlands, actually. Don't allow the health and social services to exploit you and to dump people back on you instead of doing what they're paid for. So we do require that everyone is able to look after herself or to make her own arrangements for looking after herself. But certainly there is a very good support system around anyone who's sick. You'll get lifts to outpatient appointments. Somebody will go down to visit you in hospital. Your meals will be provided, your pets will be looked after, your plants will be watered. What more could you ask? They've had to come to terms with people's boundaries. That's something that they couldn't foresee. My idea of private might be different from yours. Do I regard talking from one balcony to another as intrusive of my space or not? Those were things that they had to sort of jockey with. Because people's boundaries are all different, and they've had to work those out. They don't always agree, but we work at the whole process of consensus, and we have brought more training in on consensus. We've also brought training in on disability and on understanding and recognizing dementia. For sure, that will hit us. So the group itself is a happy one. They're not all the same. And over 37 years, why would they be all the same? But they're all working there and living there to a common purpose. And they're, I think, demonstrating a model that is a very attractive one, and one that I would recommend to people here who are thinking about the future of their old age as a very palatable alternative to living alone somewhere where you get lonelier and lonelier. So I hope that's given you a sense of the OWCH experience, and do go and look at the film.